Yeah, something else.
All righty. Well, guys, I'm here in right outside Stephenville with my new friend Mike Richardson, and he's just going to kind of tell you a little bit about who he is and where he's at right now, and then we'll jump into his story and kind of see where we go from there.
Well, Carter, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
I'm very grateful. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here, and like you said, we're opening up more opportunities and establishing friendships and nurturing the kindness that you've expended to us. So, anyway, what we do here is we're currently moving more towards taking in outside horses, and some that we're starting, some that we're restarting, and the opportunity that really developed, as a little boy, I just knew that I loved horses, and was very fortunate. My mom and dad raised some horses, warm blood thoroughbred crosses, mainly big horses, jumping horses, and I grew up fox hunting, grew up in pony club, and that gave me a really incredible foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So the horses that they raised, or that I had an opportunity to work with, really taught me a lot. And I started to realize that there was something missing. Didn't know what that was. And one day I was riding a horse that I started named Pegasus, and he was what was he? He was a warm blood cross. He was an Olenberg, excuse me. So anyway, we're riding, and what I would do is, because I was very athletic, I was playing soccer and training for triathlons and still riding horses. So I would, on my trot sets or canter sets, whatever it was in the conditioning day, I'd go out 6-10 miles, then I'd get off and run home with them next to them. Well, the really incredible thing that happened with that is, as I'm running and breathing, I found this one horse Pegasus I was telling you. He would put his nose right here. So I got to experience his breathing pattern. And then I felt that my breathing pattern was starting to match that. Well, that really spurred a lot of thought. Why is that? What's going on here? And what I came to realize is, I don't know that I would have experienced that if I hadn't been in a situation where I was still trying to get my endurance and workout in, that the horse was communicating with me in a rhythmic breathing pattern. We all know how essential breathing is, But what's the first thing a lot of people do when they get scared?
Hold their breath.
Hold their breath, to the point where you're turning blue. Breathe. Oh, okay, I'll breathe. So that was an incredible moment.
How old were you?
I was 16.
That's pretty introspective to be, because I don't run near that far, but I run a little bit, and I couldn't imagine, like, if I felt a horse breathing alongside me and I'm jogging, I'd be annoyed, not stopping and thinking, look at that, we're breathing at the same pattern, or that's pretty introspective at 16 to even have that type of thought process.
That really interesting. That's just a God thing, man. I didn't know. I was just kind of going off of the opportunities to be enlightened, and those opportunities kind of started to shape me. So I continue this with not only him but other horses, and it wasn't like I was going out 10 miles and running home 10 miles, but it might be a total of 6, depending. And one day, I was hacking them out, and I was in a spot where there were some jumps, and there was a coop, which is basically a triangle fence. I thought, well, I'm just going to trot this horse down and see if he can jump this. And again, I didn't have my self-preservation was really not there. It's kind of like this little horse Louis out here, a foal, orphan foal that he brought in. Didn't have any self-preservation at all. I'm not gonna fall off. If I do, it'll be just fine, you know. So I'm trotting down to this fence, and right as we were going to take off, someone on the road honked their horn. This horse jumps straight up, manages to jump over the fence. As he does that, he starts to buck and twist and all this stuff. Well, I came off, hit the ground, and the first thing you think is, I got to roll. I got to make sure you don't land on me. So I rolled. I didn't roll far enough. So as the dust settles, I'm laying there like this, and I look up, and there he is looking down at me. I mean, just big old eyes, and he's just snorting. Well, he had 1 foot here. No, pardon me. Had 1 foot under my armpit and had his knee right on my sternum. Thinking to myself, oh, dear God, if this goes south and he puts any weight on my chest, I'm done. So I'm talking to him, and he's breathing. And at that moment, and again, it's a God thing, I got in sync with his breathing. And he started to relax, talking to him. And I said, Pard, it's all you, man. I need you here, really. And mind you, he probably was 3. But warm bloods, they grow fast. They get big. They get, you know. And so he manages to start sliding his knee off and slides it right in between my arm and my rib cage. So now I'm in between, and he's still on one knee, still has his foot here. He goes to stand up, and as he stands up, he puts the foot that he was kneeling on me with right here, grazes my ear. Then he's standing, and he just steps right off me. I said to myself that, okay, God, there's definitely something to this, to the depth that a horse has to feel, to communicate, to think, if we give them the time. So that was probably one of the most impacting experiences early on. And we were talking earlier, what horse sparked thought and allowed you to have the ability to really go in and break things down in a much deeper level? I didn't know. I mean, but I knew there was something more that the horse had to be able to share, to be able to perform in a level that just looking at him, you wouldn't think that would be there. And so I managed to get back on him, trotted home, got home, untacked him, took care of him, put him away. Well, I was to meet my dad in a stirrup cup, and that basically after a hunt, they have a stirrup cup.
Okay.
And drinks, some eats, you know. So I met him, and I went and got myself a Virgin Bloody Mary, because I couldn't drink at the time. Well, at least there anyway. So I'm sitting with him, and he looks over at me and says, "Man, you're as white as a ghost." I said, "Dad, you just won't believe what happened to me." He said, "Oh, no." So I told him, and he's like, "Oh, geez." Well, I continued to try to get back to that moment. Not just solely to the moment like, okay, I'm thinking about what happened, but the moment of, like you said, the introspective, the enlightenment that came through what could have been an ending experience. Well, what I found out, that opened the door with that horse for us to communicate on a much deeper level. He went on to do great things. And so I started to kind of look for a place, a mentor, mentors that could help me figure this out.
So up to this point, were all the horses that you'd had and been around, was this just something the whole family was involved in, or and
yes.
you guys were making them at home and hunting on them?
Yep, the whole family. Yeah, my dad rode, my grandpa rode. My dad he's 6'1". I was 6 foot when I stood up. I have a longer inseam. He has a long torso. He sits on a horse like he's sitting in a lazy boy. And I tell you, the man never came off. I'm on horses trying to make sure my position's right. And man, I'd get thrown all the time. He'd ride up, look down at me. Anything broke? No, sir. You all right? Yes, sir. We'll get back on. So my early experiences were very much like that. And you might call that tough love. I don't know what really what you could call it other than that. But it really shaped me and prepared me for this. So I went from pony club, showing horses, event horses, dressage horses, jumping horses. Really had aspirations to go to the Northwest and work, try to get on some outfits and really start to explore this feeling. So that took me at 16. I was that experience. So started really kind of trying to find that feel again, but it had shaped me to helping horses. Didn't know how, I just knew it did something. To see horses different, to feel horses different. Well, that took me all the way through my late teens, and when I turned 20 years old, I was in an accident which left me with paralysis of my lower extremities. And that was July 25th. August 1st, I was supposed to be heading to the Northwest because that's what I had planned. And, of course, like all of us, we read periodicals and we see things in magazines, now online, which I'm still learning. I'm still kind of looking for magazines, but my part over there is helping me figure some of this technology out. He's patient with me. But, side note, so when you talk about podcasts, man, I commend you immensely because you're taking on something that I did, man. Yeah. It was word of mouth advertising. I never said anything out, never did anything online.
It's been a big learning curve.
Oh, I can only imagine. Gee whiz. But there, I commend you, man. So, I can keep talking unless you have questions.
Well, I wanted, just for a second, was your wreck, was it horse related? Was it, what was it? I mean, in as much detail as you feel like going into.
I don't have a problem. It was horsepower related. We went, a buddy of mine, we went out to a roping practice west of where I lived. And we were there. We made some stops going and coming back. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was driving a CJ7 Jeep, which was interesting because 3 weeks before that, I thought I was going to sell it because wind catches it, they float a lot. So I hadn't got to that point where I put a for sale sign on it yet. So we're driving home, came over a little rise in the road. There stood a deer in my lane, stunned by my headlights. probably realistically from here to Josh, I had made the split-second decision to swerve and miss it because all I could see is hitting it, coming over the hood, right through the windshield. Well, unbeknownst to me, the road that we were on was under construction. So it had patches that they had cut out. So it created an unstable surface. When I dropped the right front wheel off the road, it had literally dropped because there wasn't a shoulder. The Jeep went end over end and flipped. I was thrown out. Oddly enough, I did this, just like with the horse. The Jeep came down on me, crushed me from my left shoulder to my right hip, broke all my ribs, crushed my heart, my lungs, and broke my back. So by the time the EMS got there, they checked me out, went to my buddy, and they had covered me up with a sheet. My body was in such shock that there weren't any vital signs. So at that time, at 20 years old, which you gentlemen probably can understand, you're 10 foot tall and you're bulletproof. Ride anything, do anything, drink anything, get up at the crack of dawn, do it again. Well, that was very much how I was. And maybe still am to a little degree, feel like I can do anything. But he pleaded with him, said he's not dead, go check him again. They went back, really to appease him, checked me. I had some really faint vital signs. Now, you can only imagine seeing a sheet be pulled over you and then seeing the sheet be pulled back.
So you're conscious during
Well,
this interaction?
I know, but I remember. And I can't say that I saw a light or anything like that, but I knew I was in a different place, if that makes sense. I could see it, but it was more from this perspective, not laying on the ground. And at that point, they rushed me to a hospital. Upon arriving at that hospital, a family friend was on call there at the ER. He called my family and said, "You got to get here, because I don't know that we can save him. He's been in a really bad accident." And they got there. This little hospital didn't have the equipment sophisticated enough to keep me alive. So they managed to get a helicopter called, managed to get a spot on the parking lot to land it, put me in a box similar to a coffin, packed me in sand, flew me to another hospital that had the equipment, had the wherewithal.
And was that the sand, did that just keep you stabilized?
Yeah, just keep me stabilized, yeah. So upon arriving at the hospital, again, my family followed them. They gave me 12 hours to live. I had broken all my ribs, my heart, that was the worst, and of course my spine. I remember coming in and out of being conscious, and my rib cage was pressed together like a triangle. And every morning they'd come in multiple times a day, really, and put their hand on it, put pressure on it to try to get it back. Any of us that have ever had a broken rib knows that it's excruciating.
Yeah.
I mean, break anything else, but ribs, man, and they still hurt to this day. So I managed to make it that 12 hours. They let my family know that 24 hours probably doesn't have it. Every morning they came in, they would take radiographs of my torso, and I had air and water all around my heart. My heart looked like a wash rag that you'd wrung out. So that air and water was there, and that's what they said is really the most dangerous thing. And if I did live, I'd be very limited in my physical exertion. Imagine that. Now we're working in the horse industry, rolling in resistance, being pulled out, all this stuff. And I've come off horses too, but that's another story. But so the fourth day, I had made it the 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours. Every morning they'd come in, take x-rays. That fourth day, I was more alert. They came in and took pictures. And to everybody's surprise, all of that air and water was totally gone. Totally reabsorbed. Don't know how. I know how. God wasn't done with me. And really, that's it. Because I was really beat up. So at that time, they didn't have the treatment procedures early on that they do now with the injecting the injured part with steroids to reduce the swelling. Mm-hmm. Because when you break your back, it's not the break, it's the swelling that restricts the blood flow. That's what creates the paralysis.
So you were 21. What year would this have been?
86.
86,
Yep,
okay.
Yep. And I'm still 25. Just everybody know that. 1986. And, I that same year, Born on the 4th of July came out with Tom Cruise. Y'all remember that? Well, you remember the scene when he got hurt and he was in rehab and they were on gurneys getting showers? Mm-hmm. Well, there was very much some similarities even in 1986 to that. Again, those moments, I realized that this is either going to make me or break me. There isn't an in-between. Growing up, my dad would say to me, if you're in the middle of the desert, all by yourself, what are you going to do? And that would pertain, I took something apart, couldn't figure out how to get it together. We've all been there. You got 4 screws in your hand, it's together, it goes somewhere. Or you got a part to a carburetor, you got to go somewhere. Well, that was very much me, but my dad would say, in the middle of the desert, what are you going to do? Well, when he said it to me as he's sitting next to me in bed, or next to me while I'm in bed, he said, son, you're in the middle of the desert. Thinking on that a minute, he says, you're either going to live or die. You make the choice. And if you make it, don't ever go back. Don't ever look back. Move forward. And that very much is something that has driven me. I'm considered a paraplegic. I'm considered a spinal cord injury, but I'm not handicapped. That doesn't even apply to me. I just happen to sit down. I got a chair everywhere I go. I have different modes of transportation, and so going through rehab. I was driven. I wasn't going to sit in rehab for months. I needed to get out in my life. And I never really had the woe is me's, cry that I can't walk, wish I could walk. That's a given. I mean, come on. And I don't say that negative towards anybody that has been hurt. That was just me. That was how I worked it. So I did everything that I could. With the busted shoulder, broken clavicle, broken ribs, and we're learning how to navigate with paralysis. So as I'm in rehab, I get wind that there's a therapeutic program that came to, and this was in Chicago, Illinois, and I was at Northwestern. At the, there was a, oh, geez, escapes me. At any rate, there was a huge coliseum that they have since torn down, but the therapeutic program would come, once a week. I don't know exactly what their schedule was, but I think it was once a week. And they would take patients from RIC, where I was, to participate in the program. Well, man, when I got wind of that, boy, it lit a fire on my ass. Because, excuse my French, but it really did. So I pleaded with my therapist, I pleaded with the doctors, I want to go. No, you're not ready. What do I need to be ready? Well, you gotta fulfill the requirements for your therapy before you can go. Well, I was on jet fuel. We're gonna do it. I think I made so much noise about it and really worked hard that the doctor came in and says, okay, I'm gonna okay you go. I said, all right. He said, I got one stipulation. You gotta wheel yourself the 4 blocks to get there. That's not a big deal. I'm thinking blocks. I grew up in a little town. Block, I can do that. Well, country blocks versus city blocks, there's a little bit of a difference. I mean, to tell you. So I set out, I remember rolling out the door, and I thought, man, I got to get rid of some congestion. So I did, and I spit, and it went right in my lap. That was my level of conditioning. I didn't have the lung capacity, lung strength, take a deep breath, obviously with broken ribs, but I remember that distinctly. So as a little side note, as I progressed in rehab, I would gauge it on how far can I spit. Now, granted, I had dipped before, and so spitting to me, you have contests. But anyway, that's another story. But I set out to wheel those city blocks, and I managed to get to 2 city blocks. And I mean to tell you, I was spent. Because my ribs, again, hurt so bad, I had to do this kind of motion as opposed to this. I managed to get there, watched a little bit. They said, you want to try to get on? I said, heck yeah. So I got on, and I remember there was sidewalkers on either side, and they're holding on to my thighs and have a hand on my back, and I got a leader, and saying to myself, nah, this isn't it. This isn't the riding that I want to do. So, again, that was another pivotal moment, and the horses involved again. I was able to ride, and the reason behind utilizing a horse in a therapeutic setting, particularly with spinal cord or loss of limbs, is there's nothing closer to the human being's walk than the movement of a horse. So neurologically, if you allow your hips to move in a forward figure 8 manner, you're in a sense walking on top of a horse. Now, I had heard that, something similar to that, as an AB, that when I was taking dressage lessons, but I didn't quite grasp it till that moment. So again, that's another moment. So I participated that night, really was great, but I didn't really care to go back. I wanted to keep driving forward. So I was discharged just short of 6 weeks post-injury.
That seems pretty quick.
That was very quick for the extent of my injuries.
What was as you're going through this rehab, what was your family saying as far as, like, with your determination to get better fast, and you have this vision of, I'm going to get through, pushing forward, not looking back, like you were saying. Like, are you going so hard and, like, feeling pain and going through these things, and nurses and family hey, slow down and a little bit, and you're just determined to keep going? Or was
absolutely.
your dad and you're saying, no, keep going, like, know yourself? Or
and that's a really good question, because yes, there was, but at 20 years old, going into that, I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Rode anything, never broke a bone, and I mean, I'd been in some really good wrecks. Never broke a bone before I got hurt. So that I had in my favor, if you will. And I didn't realize my capacity for pain until I got hurt was at a very, very high level. I mean, you just kind of put it out of your mind and you do your thing. Yeah, you still hurt, but I didn't let that be a factor. To the best of my ability, broken clavicle and trying to do transfers, it's pretty hard to do. And side note on that, they put these braces on you to help clavicles. Well, they put mine on backwards. So what it did, as opposed to opening up my shoulders, it did this. So I didn't like the lump there because it restricted me, so I basically re-broke it. Now, I didn't really set out to re-break it, but that's what happened. So I have a really high pain tolerance, and it takes, like Josh, he'll say, have you taken your pain meds? Because I'll just keep going till I can't, and literally crash. Not the best trait, but it's gotten me a long way. And
I would imagine too, like through your perspective, I can imagine they start off on the side of the road, not even paying any attention, thinking it's too late. Then you get to the hospital and they say 12 hours, and there's no more. Then 24. Now you're 6 weeks and walking out of the hospital, or leaving the hospital.
Yep.
And this whole time, like, if you're going so determined to get out, I should have already been done for the count 3 different times already. Why am I going to slow down because of a little bit of pain? What's it going to do? Kill me?
Right.
It should have already.
And that very much, almost to a T, was my thought process. What else is going to happen? And, well, there's a lot that can happen as you look back. But no, that was a aspect of my injury that gave me the ability to push through things. So I started outpatient therapy, and I remember I had progressed to the point where I was doing brace training, trying to figure out how to walk. I don't know if I can say this on it, but you can cut it out. Yeah. Learn how to walk, and I couldn't tell you where my feet were to save my life. I mean, I looked down, I'd fall. Standing there with a walker and trying to figure out where my feet are, how to maintain balance. But what I realized that the horse taught me is how to flow with movement. So I was able to find balance, find that point, but still was having a heck of a time. A guy I was in rehab with that I met there, he dipped, and in the hospital I quit dipping. And I didn't want to start dipping again. He rolls by and he says, man, you need to put a dip in. No. Well, I continue with brace training, continue with my frustration. So one day, going to rehab, I stopped at a convenience store and I picked up a can of dip. It just happened to be Copenhagen. Put a dip in. I'll be doggone if I couldn't feel my feet. Still to this day, depends how fresh the can is, within 20 to 30 seconds, I can feel my feet. It's incredibly wild. I've talked to neurosurgeons. It's just such a strong stimulant. It somehow works, but not enough to get the message there. Because your first thought is, doggone, if my feet are tingling, maybe, So my brace training improved considerably, which was incredible. But yeah, I kept dipping, and that was another moment. But while I was in rehab, they put you in water in the pool. Well, my therapist, PT therapist, she was very much sports or of a sports mindset. Have a goal. Don't just, as I interpret it, don't just sit in the water and flop around. Have a goal. So I figured I'd just start, swimming. and doing the freestyle or front crawl, they call it. And I just started doing laps. She's like, and I did that. I'd go specifically to swim because I wanted to get back into sports, because that was another aspect of not really an identification of who I am, but a goal to be able to work towards, to accomplish, and then we'll start putting more measurable goals in front of us, like we do with horses. So, continued to swim, and the therapy was going well. In 1987, I went to my first nationals, or regional event. Pardon me, it was nationals in Houston, Texas. I went there to compete in swimming, but I spent more time at the track because I was seeing these guys and gals in racing chairs going around the track. I said, man, that's something I'd like to try. So I got home from nationals, or regionals, pardon me. No, it was nationals, pardon me. And figured out how to buy a used racing chair, and man, I was hitting the road, man. I worked up to pushing about 100 miles a week.
Oh, wow.
I was going overboard, obviously. Kind of all do that still. But I worked up to pushing that far and went to regional events racing, mainly on the track. In 1990, I went to a qualifying event, and I got invited to go to Stoke Mandeville, which is in London, to race. So my first international competition, and raced against guys all over the world. I mean, just freaking eating it up. Well, the next year in '91, I was asked to go to London again, and then Barcelona for the World Test Meet for the Olympics in '92. Only a handful of people were invited to go to that. I was unfortunately one of them. Well, before we left for regionals, then on to overseas event, I was carbo loading one day, put a baked potato in the microwave on a styrofoam plate, cooked it, took it out, put it on my lap to roll from here to my dog. Felt something, but didn't think to look. Ate my baked potato, jumped in my van, headed to go work out, and I changed from put in my tights to get on to get into in my van. Well, took my pants off, and I had a blister. It was that big on this leg, and one that was about half that size on this one. Well, I'm thinking, oh man. So what did I do? I popped them. Put my tights on, went out and worked out and sweat and all that stuff. So you can only imagine what it's doing to yeah. Well, come to find out, this one was a 3rd-degree burn. This was like a second. Well, my brilliant mindset was to buy hydrogen peroxide and just dump it on my. So that's what I did. Yeah, I was real smart. So I went to regionals in Rhode Island, and my times were terrible. But they didn't kick me off the team to go to London and then on to Barcelona. Well, when I got to London, made it through the event, one coach that knew me real well, she came up, she says, "What's going on?" She says, "Your times are really off, and I know this isn't you." And I said, "Well," I said, "I got something to tell you." She said, "What happened?" I said, "I burned my legs, 3rd-degree burns, I think, and they're open sores." So she said, "Let's go look." Sure enough, I said, "But I don't want to get kicked off and sent back home. I need to go to Barcelona." She said, "I won't tell." So I went to Barcelona, and I did everything in my power. I mean, I dug so deep to try to run and make my times that I was capable of. Couldn't do it. Well, on the plane back home, one of the coaches came up and says, Michael, we don't know what happened to your performance, but you're going to have to go and qualify for the Paralympics in '92 because we can't have you. We're going to have someone else in that spot. I pleaded with him. Well, I really got healed up, got to training hard, and made it to, it was Utah. Went to Utah, and series of races that I had to really perform exceptionally well in. Came down to the last race, which was the 5,000, which is 13 laps around the track. We all take off, and everybody's jockeying for position and trying to slow up, speed up, who's going to take the pole. And so we did that, and I really tried to make sure I was in the right spot if there was a break. Came down to the last 5 laps, and there was a break. I was in a good spot. I made the break. The guy had to beat. I was watching. We come across the line, and I got beat by 10 1/100ths of a second. And I lost my spot. I didn't get back on. Well, that was really kind of a bummer moment, kind of devastating. But to be on the team, because I had ended up moving I was living in Alabama at the time, went back to Illinois, to University of Illinois, and to be on the team at U of I, you got to go to school. Well, I knew I couldn't get into U of I, so I managed to get into a junior college that was, credits would transfer.
Yeah.
Kind of affiliated with U of I, and I could still race. Well, one day, as I'm getting this all together, I've got dyslexia, so I went to students with, what do they call it? Students with Disability Services or something like that. And got it all lined up. I'm up there waiting for a counselor. He says, as I'm looking and waiting, looked over my shoulder and I saw this information pamphlet booth. So I rolled over there and I saw a pamphlet for equine management. Pulled that out, just opened it. The counselor walks out, calls my name. So I roll into his office. And he says, well, I hear you want to enroll. I said, yes, sir. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, I'd like to take some psychology classes. Thought, why not? Well, he said, all right. I said, but I saw this pamphlet, and I'm kind of interested in this. All right. I said, I don't know much about it. You'll have to go to the ag department. So he directs me. I go down there, go to the office. Lady there talks to me, said, got to meet a lady by Dr. Dayla Sargent. I said, all right. And so I sit outside her class. The class is dismissed. She comes out. I introduce myself. She says, what can I help you with? I said, well, I'm really interested in your equine management program. I said, all right. She said, but I've got a class that I got to teach, or somewhere I got to be, pardon me. So we ended up sitting talking for 45 minutes. She didn't leave. And I told her all about what I did and what I'd like to do again. So we enrolled and got me the help that I needed and ended up going through that program. Well, in the process of that, I knew the horse was kind of calling me back, so to speak. And while I was in the program, I had ended up going back to the coach at U of I, and I had a bunch of injuries that were not healing. And I said, I think I'm going to retire from racing, pursue, horses again. So I understand. So I graduated with that program and ended up moving to Texas in 95, pardon me.
So between leaving the hospital
Right.
and starting this program and coming back to horses, during this time where you're doing all this racing and stuff, are you, like, from the time you leave the hospital, had you gone near a horse at all? Or
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
still being around them at home and family and
absolutely.
stuff like that?
That was my happy place, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Had you ridden again at all since?
Well, not. I rode 5 weeks post-injury, and then I managed to develop a saddle that had slings that my legs would go into, and I tried to ride, and that saddle didn't cut it. And then I worked on trying to develop another saddle, but I really needed a saddle maker to help me. And while I was going to school, I met a gentleman. Let me back up. I met a gentleman at a therapeutic program, and the lady at that program showed Arabs. I got asked, well, let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. While I was in the program, there was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dean Scoggins, who was a professor in the veterinary program at U of I. He'd put clinics on, and I'd show up. Wherever he was, I'd show up. And he had available time in his office for students. Well, I'd show up at that available time. And I was relentless. I really was, in a respectful manner. And I developed a great friendship with him, and started really talking more about behavioral psychology. And he talked to me about Ray Hunt, Tom Dorrance, Bill Dorrance, which I had seen in periodicals. And we worked horses together. Well, there was a horse fair up in Illinois, southern Illinois, that Larry Mahan was going to be at. Well, Dr. Scoggins knew Larry, was friends with Larry, told him Larry about me, told me where I could see Larry. So I went and met Larry Mahan. We hit it off. I flagged him riding a young horse in the middle of the crown pen. The lady that put the event on, she never asked me back because she thought we were going to kill each other. So I never got asked back to that one. But, and I really wasn't asked. Larry just said, come on in. He said, people need to see you. I said, okay. Now, I didn't have a chair like this, so getting around was pretty difficult. But I remember I'm flagging him, and he's riding this horse. The horse goes by, kicks out, the whole crowd just goes nuts thinking I'm going to get killed. We worked through that. Well, that started a relationship with Larry, and we did some things together. He asked me to come down to his house when he lived in Bandera, and it really developed a nice friendship. Well, while I was in University of Illinois, Larry asked me, he said, I'm going to be presenting at the NARA conference next year. He says, why don't you come ride? Okay, well, I had worked with a gentleman named Irby Parker and Travis Davis, I think it was, and we developed the saddle, and the saddle had a back on it. We put rip cords on it, which I can show you. Have another saddle, but rip cords like parachute rigging. Mm-hmm. The beautiful part about this, if I pull that, you know how the cars have those bags that come out? Well, I had one under my seat. So if I pulled it, the bag would go off and throw me away from the horse. Kidding. We did have parachute riggings though. And so I realized that I wasn't going to get away from the saddle if it went south. So we pulled these parachute riggings with the ripcord. The girt would break loose of the horse and I'd go to ground with the saddle. Well, one particular time I'm riding, course, my saddle slips. So your first thought is put weight in your other stirrup. Well, I did that. It didn't work. Couldn't put weight in the stirrup. So I realized that didn't work. So I figured I'd push the horn. That did work. Well, in the process of that, I got overzealous, and I pushed it all the way to the other side. So now I've gone from one side of the horse, literally to the other side of the horse, and I'm sitting there like this. Well, what's the horse doing? Getting out of dodge. I said, oh, this isn't going to be good. I managed to pull the reins just a little bit, kind of like this. He stops, and I go to the ground with the saddle.
And so the cord had not fully.
No, it did. Yeah, but I didn't do that. I didn't pull it yet.
Oh, okay.
That was the first time. I had to retrain my mind to rip cord here, not reins. Hello. So I managed. I pulled the rip cord, and I went to the ground. That was epic, and it was another moment. I realized that I could go to the ground, come off a horse, nothing broke. I didn't die. So full throttle. So I continued to ride. Now, back to that program. Larry had asked me to come to the, it was the North American Riding for the Handicapped annual conference. So it just happened to be at a place that I was familiar with up in Illinois. And at this place, the gentleman, Templeton Steele, I believe his name was, he raised Lipizzan horses and had Spanish riders come and ride these horses. They do performances in this arena. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. And I had gone there as an AB to watch them. So now I was asked to ride in this program. Well, the lady named Fran, she let me ride her gelding, and I went in there and rode and didn't have to pull the ripcord. Did circles, walk, trot, canter. It was awesome. Just awesome. Get all done, get a picture of Larry Mahan. Well, that just kind of created a greater bond with Larry. And he was really nice to me. I mean, he was a great man. Dr. Scoggins was also very instrumental, and he was truly a mentor. Larry was in his own way. This took me up to start to do clinics, workshops on the road, and I was working for a guy after I moved here to Texas. He had an Arabian training operation, so I worked a lot of these Arabs and other breeds, but mainly Arabs. And while I was working for him, he got to a point that he was traveling too much because he was a pilot and flew overseas. And so he said, work's getting light, I'm going to have to let you go. And so I started exploring other opportunities. Well, I put a portfolio together to work with weanlings, all these different ranches, to prepare them for fraternities.
So I want to stop for a second before we get too far. As you are starting to get more active and you're having these opportunities and you're putting this portfolio together,
Yep.
What did it look like? Like, what were some of the obvious struggles, but some of maybe the less obvious struggles of relearning how to work these horses in your new, new capabilities? Like,
well,
what was that like?
That's a great question.
Because I imagine was there any resource, or
No.
was it a lot of trial and error? Like, were there people in similar situations doing it?
No.
Or not to the level that you wanted to or knew you could?
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. No, the biggest challenge, and still today is surface, ground, how deep the arena is. And Josh is great because he grades in our arenas and works them up. I got a round pen out there that's real really, really good, thanks to him, to maneuver in. But early on, I knew that I had to go to places that allowed me to maneuver as free as I possibly could. And really, outside the obvious of you know, putting too much pressure on a horse when they push back, once I realized that I didn't need to do, I just needed to present, keep offering, and let the horse come to it. And that allowed me to be safe, to not be in compromising positions to the best of our ability. We can be as safe as possible and still going to have accidents.
Yeah.
But for me, if once I really adopted that mindset and surrendered myself to the able-bodied mindset, just new perspective, new approach, and new ability. And the new ability was something that I would continue to refine and still do today, to be able to find the best spot. So what I realized then is I'm not a very good chess player, but like in chess, be a move ahead. And I try to be 4 moves ahead of a horse. And that always puts me in a spot where they're coming to it. Even riding, offer it, let them come to it. As opposed to push and they'll find it out of default, is let them come to it. Let them come to it. It might be slower than you think initially, but really in the long run, it's faster. So once I acquired that, it really wasn't as difficult as you might think. Now the challenge still is going places with the surface, but I've got a chair in the house that will allow me to do that, which we can expound on a little bit, where it's not all manual. Getting back to what we talked about earlier, doing it off horseback is huge. Huge. Starting horses, doing clinics off horses, just easier. It is for all of us. But to me, even more so because they become my legs. So your question is a good one, but really, I looked at every opportunity as a challenge, as an opportunity to get better, to learn, be more enlightened, to have the intuition and develop that would give me abilities to work with horses different than I did as an AB, obviously, but yet almost better. And nowadays it is better because of this. And I also realized that the consequences of me getting stepped on or a foot through spokes, which has happened, are far greater because of, and to get hurt for me can really take me out of the game. And I've had a lot of bad injuries that have set me back, but really not any different than all of us. We all work with that. Whether it's happened or not, we still work with the thought of. So once I got past that, I realized that, God had blessed me. God has given me the ability to do this. And what's so beautiful about a horse is God put something in them that they deal with us, deal with all our baggage. Well, what I try to do is be as open, as transparent, as vulnerable as I can with the horse, and not let strength get in the way, or I'm going to outmuscle you, or I'm going to use a device that'll limit you. Not that at all. I want the horse to be able to express himself to their greatest degree, because that's how I'm going to learn. That's how I'm going to be better.
I think that, certainly something that I can relate to in that is in this last year since I've moved to Texas, and beforehand, I was cowboying and I had to make a horse do something because we had a job to get done.
Right.
Versus now, the job I'm trying to get done is making this horse perform to the best of its ability. And so I've had to redefine everything I thought that I knew if not at least once, 2 or 3 times in this last year.
Right.
And what I'm realizing is that these horses, and to relate it back to you, like, they don't, if you're starting a horse and you're starting it, they don't know any different between you
Right.
going about them the way you have to, or me or Josh or anybody else going at them. Like, this is their first interaction, and they're learning to take the pressure the way you give it to them. And I think that from the outside looking in, it'd be easy to sit here and say, this is an issue you may have, or that these horses may have receiving that information, but that, is probably not the case at all, because they're learning your pressure the same way they would learn mine. It's all from anew.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's incredible maturity, Carter. And that's what we can learn from these horses if we give ourselves the time. And like Josh is riding, and he's riding like one horse we have out here, and he's giving me feedback, like I mentioned earlier, and then we together adjust to what that horse needs. But in the process of that, Josh is learning how to be more enlightened, to be softer, figure out the timing, maybe just not as much here, or maybe a little more here. And it's beautiful to see that, to see him mature as a horseman, as a rider. Not that he wasn't good before, but to see that and have that interaction to help the horse. So the common denominator is the horse. That's what brought us together. And the horse has the ability to, they don't discriminate, just like you, almost what you're saying. They're looking at, that's a little different. But if you approach it from your heart and your mind and be as open and sincere as possible, probably not going to run from it.
Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. Like, I was a farrier for several years. Before I came to Texas, I was starting a lot of horses from 3 to 8 years old, restarting them, and in those older age horses, everybody knows, like, they get a little more set in their ways. They're a lot stronger and more confident in how to leverage their bodies against you.
Yep.
And the biggest mistake that a lot of guys make when they're trying to rehab or restart these older horses, their problem horses, is they think, well, if I'm real slow and I sneak around them, I can get this blanket on. And maybe you do sneak and get that blanket or get them saddled once or twice, but exactly, there's no consistency to where, like you're just saying, if you can slow this down, maybe it takes us 5 days to get a saddle on them versus sneaking it on in a day or 2 days. But in 3 weeks, I'm not going to be sneaking anything. I've taken my time, I've slowed down, I've made them confident and have some responsibility in this action with me, versus trying to sneak and everything being a surprise or that kind of shock. And it's taken me 10 years to figure this lesson, to where you had the opportunity to kind of be forced to learn it.
Yeah. Again, that's great. I mean, I commend you, because that's maturity in and of itself. But, for me, it was getting hurt. And I've got a dear friend, the gentleman that gave me this horse, Kurt Pate, phenomenal family, phenomenal man, and a dear friend. He is also affiliated with Prina. And we have had some really deep conversations. And he says, I think horsemanship starts when you have to get readers, have to get glasses. And if you think about that, it's a level of life experiences, life choices, and where that growth has come from and how it's developed. And I think your family, that changes your perspective a little bit. And my being married and got a daughter, so it was the same for me. I need to work smart. Now, I didn't always, and still don't always, work as smart as I could, but I'm a lot smarter than I might have been otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you know, that is a blessing in and of itself, because that, what you're learning with the process of working with horses, you're going to take to your son. You're going to share with your fiance. You're going to share with your friends. It makes you a deeper, more enlightened, have the capacity to feel and interact with people in a whole different level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these animals teach us, whether we realize it or not. I realized it as an AB, those moments of running with them and they're blowing in my ear. Man, there's something here. But it took almost the period of that sentence, if you will, or that period of that last word in that chapter was getting hurt and going through that and going through the pain and the struggles, and not to say there's not still, because there is. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that. But again, you get back to what these guys can teach us, just being with them, grooming them. You know, watching your son smile as he pets the horse. That doesn't light you up. Lights me up just thinking about it. You know, my daughter would sit for hours outside the round pen because I needed help. She would say, "I'm never going to use this, Dad. Never going to use this." So you use it. She now has a therapeutic program of her own, works with first responders, works with kids that have challenges, and it's made her such a beautiful soul. Again, that's where these horses are intertwined in their life. So, you know, those moments of pure enlightenment far outweigh the struggles, the pain, the sweat, the blood that goes into, you know, working in the dirt, what goes into it. And when you meet people like y'all, you embrace it. And that's why I'm so excited for you and your podcast, because you're opening the door to start to have conversations, to create friendships and interactions that are going to be lasting. And it's all because of these horses. So you look at it and it's on a far deeper level than we, you know, initially thought. And I'm getting ahead of myself. You have another thought? Or I'll just keep rolling.
No. So let's go back to I believe we were talking about an Arab program you were leaving the program and you were starting to put a portfolio of your own together.
Correct.
And going to start out on your own, I believe. Is that where we were at?
Well, when I moved to Texas, I seeked out employment, and I worked for a gentleman, repair and tack, and then I met this gentleman that had a training program and worked with a lot of mainly Arabs, and it was really good, and I love Arabs. And you probably go, man, because people think, oh, Arabs are just terrible.
Well, honestly, that impresses
smart.
me the most that's where you went back to, because I'm just thinking about the couple I've been around. I mean, literally only one or two, and how much trouble and frustration I got. I mean, it impresses the hell out of me that was one of the first introductions back.
It really was amazing. They're so smart and they're so sensitive. You've got to slow yourself down so much. If you think you're not going slow enough, I guarantee you're not. Slow up. And again, the enlightenment that came from that. I was given an Arab. I turned into a demo horse and rode an Arab my first quote-unquote demonstration. Worked for Arab facilities, and from Egyptian Arabians to Polish Arabians to Russian Arabians in the different lines, and just loved every moment of that. And the way they think helped shape me to be able to work with, quarter horses, mainly quarters and thoroughbreds and some warm bloods, but that's it now. But not to say I wouldn't jump at the chance to work with an Arab, because man, I tell you what, they'll make you good. Or they'll revere all your holes, make you look like a sheer idiot.
Yeah.
I got a story real quick I'll share with you. I was working for this gentleman, David Peters, and we had this Arab came in that this gentleman just shipped over from Egypt, and he was considered a true black thoroughbred. Or Arab, excuse me. His skin was dark, where, these guys' skin is light. So he was almost a blue Arab. Mm-hmm. He was a stallion, came in, I worked with him, just was making great progress, doing everything we asked, just respectful, really a cool dude. Well, first day the guy came to see the horse is in a stall, had the head door shut. He goes up to the stall, and the stallion comes at him, biting the bars, ears back, mouth gaped open. Can't figure it out. Guy left, I roll in the stall, horses is just as calm as can be. Well, this happened a few visits. The guy was almost to the point of I'm sending the horse back or selling. I said to him, I noticed every time you come, you have a certain smell. Real strong cologne. I said, real strong. I said, maybe this next time, don't put any on. He said, why would I do that? I said, well, just a thought. So the guy that I was working with said, man, why don't you try that? So he shows up, walks up to the stall. Horse walks up to him, lowers his head in the stall, never exhibits that behavior. So we were going to test this theory. Comes back the next time with not as much, but the same cologne. Horse went nuts. So that's how sensitive they are, and how protective that they'll be to themselves. And it was all over how a horse, or how this gentleman smelled. Probably had a bad experience and probably, did something unfortunate to him with similar smell. Mm-hmm. Well, take those type of moments and say, well, let's assess myself before we roll into the pen or step on the horse. Where are we? Are we present? Are we regulated? Are we here? Not what we did yesterday, not what we're going to do tomorrow, right now. And it's amazing what'll change if you can kind of get in that moment, that regulated, to be able to help the horse.
I've been reading, so through my previous podcast with Monty Button and all the stuff I'd done to research for him and going into him, and something that we really talked about was a book called The Science of Getting Rich. Mm-hmm. And in that book, it's kind of slightly Bible-based. It has a lot of religious themes through it, but it has totally changed my perception and train of thought and how I approach my day-to-day situation. It's maybe a 2.5 hour listen if you do the audiobook. I've listened to it probably close to 40 times now.
Good for you.
And what it talks about is, and some other things that me and him had kind of digested from it, which is exactly what you were just speaking towards, is doing the work or the steps or the process that are required today, and to not try and do tomorrow's work today, but to take your time and do today's work as good as you can. And it's not about how fast, it's not about how much you do, but it's about the quality and efficiency at which you do it.
Absolutely.
And that has been something, and the reason I have listened to that book so much is in the mornings when I'm cleaning stalls, to be completely honest, I was listening to too much Joe Rogan and these other podcasts and hearing about all the scary stuff that's going on in the world. You listen to Sean Ryan and all the terrorists. So the first thing I was digesting in the morning was all this stuff that was making me anxious, and I need to buy more bullets and I need to get some MREs, and I'm thinking about all this terrible, Russia's going to nuke us tomorrow. And I was having kind of this spell with my horses where, everything's so fast and they're nervous and they're jumping back and I'm trying to stab them into the ground instead of letting them just find the ground and come to it. And I had kind of made this mental note of like my own kind of anxiety's been up and I'm not clueless to know that the horses feed off of you.
Absolutely.
So then I started listening to this and I started thinking, okay, I'm gonna do a more quality job when I clean this stall. I might, when I think I'm done, I might pick through one more sift and get a couple more big pieces I missed, or just kind of finding some organization and slowing down my own mental thought and thinking, okay, let's be a little more conscious about, I'm not just gonna go through these steps, but I'm gonna have some intent behind what I'm doing. And what did this horse feel like yesterday? How did I leave him? Were they feeling fast? Did they need to be livened up? Do I need to, get this horse softer and back behind the bridle a little bit? And so not that I had this big routine or self program or whatever, but just to change my mind, I guess the energy behind my frame of mind before I went in, having a little more intention with each movement. And these last, month and a half since I've done that, I've been kind of back to what we were saying, they're slower bits of progress, but these horses are becoming much more responsible for doing these things and finding their own center without me having to guide them to it as much.
Good for you. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And you're exactly right. I mean, it's just amazing to me the depth of capacity these horses have to feel. And when you start to understand how to shape or kind of stimulate the nervous system and start to shape it for the horse, you're going to shape your own as well. The lady I was telling you about, Leanna Ray, she studies relational neuroscience, and we've taken it to working with horses. And so we work together and partner on some things, and she's an incredible lady. What she has done for me, like we had mentioned earlier, she's helped me put a language to it. And it has allowed me, because I don't think in words, I think in pictures, allowed me to see these pictures in a deeper three-dimensional way because of how we shape the nervous system of the horse. Are they regulated, like we talked about? What does that mean? Well, can the horse stretch its neck out, lower its head within movement? We know if a horse lowers his head where their eyes are below the withers, their heart rate slows up. Their heart rate slows up, they're more receptive to learning. As they become more receptive to learn, you're making progress. And like you said, it might appear that it's little, but it's those little moments build up. And then you're going to have this horse do things that's like, wow.
Could you explain what you just said a little bit more about you don't see, communicate in pictures, or can you say that again?
Sure. I think and see in pictures. So like with reading a book, I don't read real well, so I audio or have somebody read it to me. I'll take those words and I'll put it in a picture. And then that picture, what I've done with the horse is I see where I'd like the horse to go, or where I think they can go, where we can go together in frames ahead of the horse's movement. So what I try to do is see where the horse is here, frame is up here. All of a sudden, it mirrors, it overlaps each other. That to me is how I see the horse, how I see progress. And now with what Leanna has taught me with the nervous system and regulation and window of tolerance, is being able to see that nervous system shaped. And where I see it, like I said earlier, is the pictures are more three-dimensional. The shades are brighter. The picture's popping out at you. And that is something that I try to not only convey to the horse initial opportunities to start working together, but through a session and sessions as the horse develops.
And so this is a type of frame of mind, and that it's not just while you're working the horse, or maybe not, I guess, like you're noticing this in a specific session you're working with a horse, and you're thinking about this and digesting it again when you go home at night,
Right.
and thinking of tomorrow, and like over the course of a week you're kind of like making like this mental flip book kind of.
You're spot on. You're exactly right. Like when we were doing clinics, what I loved about the clinics, multiple things, but one in particular was driving. Because more times than not, we'd load horses up, drive at night. My wife would get in the back. We got a semi up there, and she'd go to sleep. So she'd set the bed up just like she would at home, and she'd go to bed after we took care of horses, and I'd drive. Well, I would either drive with some music on, but mainly I'd just have no music, just listen to the engine. And what I would do is I'd replay every ride in frames. And whether it be at a clinic where you're working with a horse and a rider, or it be a horse I'm working on, I break it down in frames. And I watch each frame. And then I evaluate where I think I can maybe do better, what I learned from that, to apply to the next frame. So what that has given me, like you're saying, a flip book, a picture book, is I can go back, and if I'm right here and I've got a little sticky spot, just go back a few pages, a few frames, to evaluate where they were at and what happened from that page or frame to the next one. And going back to your question you made about, what's kind of the hardest thing, most challenging thing with this perspective, is it gave me more ability because the injury gave me more introspective, more opportunities of an enlightenment that was on a higher level, because I can't get in there and do it physically. I can't just get on a horse and work a horse through it for a person.
Yeah, you have to get the horse on your side.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, because the more I'm trying to like imagine what you're saying here, I'm almost, you know how like when you're a kid, someone would get a sticky notepad, and you draw the ball and you can flip through it real quick and you watch the ball jump up and down.
Yes, sir.
And I'm almost imagining, well, here's one sticky pad book with the ball bouncing up and down, and you see the arc, and it takes just in the middle and it comes back down, and over here is maybe the kid's first time trying to recreate what his dad showed him, for example. And as I'm applying this to trying to figure out how I could fit this on a horse, it's, well, say I want this horse to step forward and disengage its hip. Well, this is what it should look like. I've seen the video. I've seen it on another horse. Here, and trying to mirror, okay, I got 3 pages in and this wasn't quite right. Let's see what did 1 and 2 show me. And that's kind of how I'm inching this book to match the.
Exactly right.
Is that similar to how you're trying to think about it?
Exactly right. And like I mentioned with Josh, what I'll see when he rides, I'll try to get ahead of him, frames, steps, and help him ride to that frame. And as he rides through the frame, we're watching what does the horse do through the process of that. And then what input does Josh give me along with what I saw of the feel through those frames. And we're getting better and better at it every time he rides. And even me just watching him ride one of his young horses here. So that's what we do with clinics and workshops, is help people start to be introduced to that. And again, before I met Leanna, I knew that aspect was there. I still saw in frames. I just could not speak that language, but now that I can start and understand it and speak it, I'm seeing it different. How it relates to the way I see horses. And so, like for me, I ride multiple times a day from here because it's here. I go through everything that I'm going to feel with this horse as soon as I get on him again. I'm going to feel where my balance is because my balance is not real good. And how can I make it better through every step? Now, side note, first time that I ever had an interaction with Ray Hunt, he was helping people understand footfall. Well, maybe it'd be more like calling people out about footfall. Tell me where the right front is right now. You know? But, and I don't say this boastfully by no means, because it was truly a highlight of my life, was to be able to sit down with him, and he was interested in how I was riding, because like a lot of ABs, we use our feet and our legs a lot. How could I get horses to do some of these things? Fascinating. The conversation, wish I had it recorded, because it was just absolutely enlightening and fascinating, because he's telling me what he feels and tries to get, and I'm sharing same experience, but from my perspective. And those moments were I cherish, absolutely cherish. I had an opportunity to ride in '01 at the Tom Dorrance benefit clinic in Fort Worth. And it was an invitation only. And I could share the story with you if you want, but I was invited. And it was, to ride, it was $1,000 that went to Tom Dorrance for his medical bills. And, you know, God just blessed me with $1,000 to be able to ride. But we're riding, and I was riding a stallion at the time that had never been ridden with anybody using leg on him at all, and he never had a bit in his mouth. He was 6 years old, and I'm riding him, and one of the things Ray does is he says, all right, every other person, turn your horse and face the horse behind you. So we did. And he says, now we're going to weave in and out of each other, which we did. And I use guider whips to help my horse and support lateral movements off, setting it up with my weight and then moving him. And we're weaving in and out. He's doing great. And another horse that I was riding was a gelding. He was real solid. Oh, they both were, but was riding. And we get all done. Everybody circles up. And it was at the Watt Arena in Fort Worth, just packed. We're going through, and he's introducing people, and gets to me. He wants everybody to ride out, you know. So I rolled out, tipped my hat. He's telling everybody what he saw. Of course, I didn't think a lot of it because that's just how I do it. And he's sharing a little bit, and I go to leave. People stand up. They start applauding. I applauded for like 2 minutes. I tried to go leave. He said, no, you stay out there. And of course, tears are coming down my eyes, and I'm loving on the horse that I was riding. His name was Bubba. And again, it was another moment because it allowed me to share an experience. And I don't say that boastfully, by no means. I share it because the people that were watching were touched, were moved, again, by these horses, were moved by what they saw. Of course, I was moved, but that started the relationship that I had with Ray. And it wasn't, I didn't get a lot of times to talk to him, but when I did, it was incredible. But he was just fascinated. And got all done with the applause and thanked everybody and pointed to my horse and pointed to Ray and thanked everybody and rode back. And Dr. Scoggins was there, like I mentioned earlier. And I saw him in the crowd and get all done, and I'm in my chair rolling out of the arena, and there he is. He walks up to me and he says, "You did it. You did it." And I don't look at it as one and done deal. I look at it as an experience, and we're going to apply to the next one and the next one. And it was kind of like, I guess I arrived. That clinic, signing on with Perina Mills, that clinic, and then opportunities after just elevated me. And this is how I'm looking at it, the responsibility that now I have. If people are going to watch, it's Mountain Putty. If people are going to watch, give them something to look at. And do your best. Be as sincere as you can be. And don't ever take the horse for granted. Don't ever take people for granted. You can learn something from everybody. And that's what I try to do the best of my ability.
Absolutely. So me and Richard Winters were sitting down the other day, and we were talking kind of similar along these lines. As the doctor had said, you made it. And so that was kind of something that I was talking to Richard about. And I was saying also something that came from Monty that kind of put it into perspective and started making me think, have I done this myself? And it was, I had done all the things that I thought I was capable of up to whatever point. Like, I didn't have very much confidence. There were a lot of people that, whether they said it to me or about me behind my back and I heard about it, that were saying it won't happen, it won't be very good if he does, or blah, blah, blah. And so the bars that I had set for myself were, okay, I started at a pack station, and they did this cattle drive in and out of the forest permit. And it was like, okay, I want to be on that cattle drive. Not I want to be a cowboy at full time, I want to be on a cattle drive, coming, doing whatever. And I got that. And then I was like, okay, well, this is way more fun than a string of mules. Like, now I want to do it full time. So then I moved to Montana, and I got a night cabin job and cowboy. And I was like, okay, now I'm a cowboy. Well, this is still kind of duty. It was and then I found the next level and the next level, and it's now led me down to training performance horses. And now I have the most beautiful family that I could have pictured for myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, I have already done everything I thought that I was capable of, and I've not once stopped and appreciated it.
Right.
And so the biggest thing I've been working on recently is trying to instill a sincere ability to express and recognize gratitude. And as I've done this, it's also, I recognize how much I have accomplished, and in some cases without very much effort, because I wasn't doing it intentionally or consciously a lot of times. And now looking forward, setting bigger goals and thinking how much farther ahead this type of recognition is going to get me.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like this was exactly that type of moment for you, to where
Truly
you're
was.
saying,
Truly.
Not only have I done something, but how far and high this has taken me. Yep. How much farther and higher can I go?
Right. Exactly right. And, you're only as limited as you think. And I wasn't going to, and still don't, allow myself to look at my perspective as a limiting factor. I look at it as an opportunity that has presented itself every moment of every day. The moment I wake up, I'm going to ask myself, can I learn something today? And take advantage of every opportunity to learn something, whether it's washing Josh or helping groom a horse or getting this little one her first couple rides is what am I learning? Because I feel that the horse is the ultimate teacher. And you hear that probably in your past or in your travels, that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. There's the teacher. Mm-hmm. And it's what can you learn? And that is something, whether you're riding horses just for pleasure, you're riding horses to make a living, performance horses, doesn't even matter. Running a therapeutic program, participating in a program is what they can teach you. And the horses continue to teach me and assure me, along with being blessed, is I can do anything that I want to try to do. Might be a little different, but we're going to try to do it. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to take work, because there's going to be a lot of work. But anything worth having is worth working for. Whether a relationship, your wife, your spouse, your fiance, whatever it may be, friends. But that's what they can teach you. When you're ready, they'll appear. And man, is that a humbling moment. It's incredibly humbling.
So one more question before we get back into kind of your timeline. But through your life up to this conference that we're just talking about, or even up to now, I guess, like one thing that is extremely heavy on my mind is the amount of time that I, in my new perspective, would say that I wasted. My late teens through my mid-20s. I am now trying to capitalize on every horse and ride and day as much as I can. And I am still, I would say, fairly fresh on this new amount of motivation that I have. And one thing that I don't want to fall into the trap of is just going through the motions. And so through your life and experiences and career, when you have found yourself starting to find your day-to-day tasks tedious and mundane, have you found something that you consciously do to make yourself present again? Or is it just something where maybe you come in and out and something, just a moment finds you when it needs to, that brings the perspective back around?
Well, that's deep. Yeah, there is. Couple things. I do my best, whether I'm rolling in a pen or I'm putting a leg over a horse to get on, is I try to, one, be as present, like you're talking about, but leave as much baggage that I can at the gate, on the mounting platform, wherever, because I want to start or be as fresh as possible so I can take in every moment that the horse offers me. And I can't do that if I'm thinking about what happened spilling my coffee, or my wife talks to me about finances, something. I try to put all that aside, be as open and as vulnerable, as creative as I can to the process. The other part of that is I really try to get my breathing right, because again, the neuroscience part, right brain to right brain, nervous system to nervous system, and that is something we can acquire and develop through our breathing. Remember the moment of the horse. Profound. So I try to get my breathing right, and I try to, again, be as open as I can as I roll in. And that helps me to be able to feel in areas that I can't feel, if that makes sense. It opens up my senses. It opens up the creative part to be able to send and receive the information as it pertains to those picture frames. So for you to ask that, I mean, that's profound in where you're coming from, because that's only going to help you get better and better and be more present. I think we live in such a society today that we have access to a little computer everywhere we go, that we're always on it, we're always looking, and that is it's a distraction. Takes you away from being present. But we all do it. I mean, I look at Facebook. So the opportunity to be present through breathing, through thinking about my nervous system, being able to put language, like I said, to what Leanna's taught me, helps me, that I take to every horse.
Yeah.
And if it's multiple horses a day, I take it to each one. Do it the same thing each time. Just take a moment to breathe, make sure that I'm as regulated as I possibly can, and then go in and try to help them.
Yeah. It's certainly easy, especially as a young man, to let your emotions override yourself. And especially, you know, say I'm riding 8, 10 horses in a day. If my first horse gives me some huge struggle, to be able to leave that behind and really let it go when I get on the next one, so I don't just immediately ask for that same bad behavior.
Exactly right.
And it's amazing, back to kind of my point about how fast things can go by. I mean, it seems like a day is an eternity, but a week goes by in the flash of the blink of an eye.
Yep.
And I would imagine with children, and the older you get, like right now it seems like a day takes forever and a week goes by like nothing. You know, in another decade, will it be a month has all of a sudden disappeared, and then a year?
Well, the potential's there for that to happen, yes. But I say to people, for example, if I lift up and I say I'm going to lift up for 30 seconds, that's a long time. Because you get tired. And you realize time isn't nearly as fast as you think. Doesn't mean it can't be. But if you that's what I put things into. Back to that moment. This here is a moment. And it takes strength, and you're going to fatigue. But what benefits come from it? One, I get an idea what time is really like. And two, I get off my butt, which helps create a relief. But the thing of it is if we slow ourselves up to see more depth of detail, you'll find enlightenment. The enlightenment will come to a much greater degree, because every moment has the ability to help you become better. Better in your relationships, a better father, a better horseman. So you can take these experiences from the first to the 10th horse that you ride in a day. And you start fresh, you reset every time. And when I say reset the way you think, the way you breathe, like we talked about. But we're calling that reset, so you can be as open to that horse or next horse as you go. And that's what I surely try to do with every interaction that I have with these horses. And at the end of the day, you're spent, but you've got a level of sheer joy through the experience. And I just think people, we live too fast. We have access to things all over the world in our hands that we carry around in our pocket every day. Well, that has a tendency to distort time, distort the opportunity to slow up and to see your horses in a much greater way, deeper way. So that's a good question, and that's for surely what I try to do every time I have the opportunity to interact with a horse.
A saying that was introduced to me that I've thought a lot about and that just came to mind right here is choosing your own hard.
Right.
It's hard to be broke and live paycheck to paycheck. It's also hard to be determined and organized and functional enough to make a living and be sustainable and not worry. But there's other worries and challenges that come with it, where the same thing, like to what you just said, it's easy to put your head down in your phone and float through the day and speed through time. And it's also hard to do something to slow yourself down and recognize how slow time can be.
Right.
And
right.
it's something that I think a lot about is choosing my own hards. And sometimes the hards that are going to benefit you, they still seem just a little bit harder. Even though it is hard to not do something for yourself, sometimes that amount of motivation takes just an ounce more effort.
It absolutely does. And I think that the more present you can be, the easier that process gets. And you know, I really, and I get asked this a lot. Do you ever wish you weren't hurt? If you could change anything, would you change your injury? I don't think I would, because I've learned so much from it. If I can be who I am today and what I've learned and walk, sure. But if it's presented like you go back to walking, but you don't get to take this enlightenment that you've learned and the peace of being able to be present, I'll stay here. Because it has really, truly blessed me beyond my wildest dreams of what I'm learning every day, every moment about how to be better. And it's something I wouldn't change.
That's pretty profound, and I hope that whoever does take the time to listen to this recognizes like the depth into that statement of the mental fortitude that you've gained and what the trade-off would be if you did have that wish or that magic switch to not go back.
Yep.
Because from the outside looking in, it seems like a give me answer.
Yeah, it sure does. And it's understandable from my perspective how people would think that way. But I think through trial comes opportunity, through challenges. And you can either stuck in the desert or you can walk out of it. And that is something that I'm grateful my dad would say to me as a little kid, still says to me. But also the fact that with these horses, it's every moment. It's not, okay, 30 minutes, I need to be here. It's every moment of that period of time that you're with that horse. And it's quality, and that's a choice. So you make it the best opportunity you can to live and be in every moment.
Absolutely. So where were year-wise? You said we were around 2001 at that?
Well, 2001, yep. But jumped a little bit of ahead because I've been feeding, my family, been feeding Purina products back when they had nothing but Omaline. Mm-hmm. So I would go and do little clinics, and there it seemed that there might be a Purina representative there of some degree. And I did it was actually my second expo, but it was in Louisville, Kentucky. It was called Equitana. And I was asked to go and present. And while I was there, Prina at that time had a trailer that was a kind of a rolling museum. Bunch of memorabilia in there about Prina, and you'd also on the outside, you'd sign up to get information. And so Prina was at Equitana, and they had a round pen that they sponsored. And at that round pen, they mainly had Prina affiliated people in it. Or unbeknownst to me, people that they were maybe interested in looking at or had been looking at. So I was there, and what they do is they give you, the expo, they give you a list of potential horses that you can choose from for demos, and horse and rider lists that you can maybe use for a riding demo. So I picked my horses, and I happened to pick a 7-year-old thoroughbred gelding. Well, we arrive, get our horses all settled, and I decide to roll around and see if I could find this horse. So I did, and I met the owners. Well, come to find out, this horse had been on stall rest for, I don't even remember how long, but he was on stall rest 6 to 8 weeks, I believe it was. The day before they went, or were going to leave for Equitana, he got released. So he was done with his period of time in the stall. Well, when I saw this, I go, oh man, this is going to be something. Well, the time came for my demo. Now picture this. You got to walk in one door. You got to walk down a red carpet amongst a bunch of vendors to the far end where the round pen is. 8-week stall rest. Just came off that. The fire-breathing dragon. They had 2 people behind. They had 2 people beside his head or shoulders. One person leading and me ahead of them, rolling in front of them. We get to the pen. I roll in, and they look at me like, you really want this horse? I said, absolutely, bring him in. So they bring the horse in, and they say, what do you want us to do now? I said, well, take the halter off. You're kidding. So they took the halter off this horse. He goes ripping around, and every time he passes me, he kicks out at me. When that was to no avail, he stops, rears up above me, literally above me. Crowd goes nuts. Just, well, it was kind of a moment of, why do people go to hockey games? See the technical aspect of the game or see the fights? All right, see the fights. So people drew to this round pen like you wouldn't believe. I couldn't have planned it better. So I start talking, and we start doing things, and this horse just comes to a point, just relaxes, trots around. We talk about things, changes direction, just as calm as can be. Walks over a tarp. I get the tarp towards the end there, and I'm laying it over him. We get all done, and he's just the best demo prospect I could have had in my life. So the owners come back, and they go to putting the halter on and go to put the chain over his nose again. I said, I don't think he'll need it. They say, sure? I said, oh yeah, he's gonna be great. He walked down the red carpet just as calm as can be. And it wasn't like he was breathing or sweating any more than I was, because I was whooped. I get met at the gate by the gentleman at the time that was handling all of the sponsorships for Prina Mills. And he says, Michael, do you have a minute? I said, sure. He said, I got someone I'd like you to meet. I said, all right. So I roll out and roll through all the people, and they're all just having a great time. And saying good things, and roll to the trailer, and there's this little boy in this little yellow quickie wheelchair. And his mom says to me, we're rolling down the aisle amongst the exhibits, and it's as if the crowd just parted, and he looks right in at you. And he says, look, Mommy, someone just like me. Still gets me. So we're talking, and he tells me about his pony. He asked me if he could do that. I said, absolutely. And another moment just floored me. What the horse did again, opened up an opportunity to meet that little boy and have him be able to see something that probably doesn't see every day. I mean, how many people really do you see in my perspective working horses like this? Not, I mean, there are, but you don't see them like you see able-bodied people. So for that moment to be set up just like that, man, I still remember it just like it was yesterday. I mean, right at this moment, because it was so impactful. But that's, again, what the horse did. So we get done talking and go through the rest of the expo, and there's a gentleman by the name of Richard Strake. You ever heard his name?
No.
Lived out in Oregon, maybe still does. He was a clinician and did a lot of horse expos, and he was sponsored by Purina. The expo's all done. I'm rolling down the red carpet, my head down. There's 2 feet. I stop, look up, sticks his hand out. He says, hi, I'm Richard Strake. I said, hi, I'm Michael Richardson. He was at every demo I did but one. He said, you know why I came to your demos? I said, no, sir. To see if you could do it. He says, you can do it. Again, another moment. So, while I was there, I got a card from the gentleman that handled all of the sponsorship for Purina Mills. I was on the road for 3 weeks, forgot all about calling him. Got home, found the card in my bag, and you should see how I keep all my cards in my bag. You'd love it. I just put a hair tie around them. That's my wallet. So I pulled that out, looking for a credit card or something, saw that and saw it. I said, oh man, I gotta call him. So I called this gentleman. He said, would you like to meet? I'd like to talk to you. I said, sure. He said, how about meeting at the Paint World? Okay. So we met at the Paint World. We're sitting there watching the stallion halter class. Anybody that's ever watched halter, you got to be in the right mindset. So he says, well, we'd really be interested in seeing if you'd like to be involved with Purina Mills. I said, okay, yeah, that'd be great. He says, we have a really good relationship with NARA, which is that therapeutic program I was telling him about. And he said, we'd like to see if we can continue to develop that relationship with them, and maybe bringing you on would help that. I said, okay. Thought a moment, and I said, I'm trying really hard to establish my own identity. And silence. Oh, geez, I just blew this one. I mean, I just totally blew it. Seemed like forever. Then he comments, he says, well, I understand that. So you still interested? I said, man, where do I sign? So I signed on with Purina. That totally changed, like I told you earlier, what I did in the industry. That credibility that came through that affiliation opened up doors for me. Opened up being able to present at expos where I might not be able to otherwise because of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And so 2001, they had a lot of Purina people there that were invited that that they had asked. And so that just started in a much greater extent things for me to be able to do and ride at a much higher level. So I just can't thank Purina, thank these opportunities enough, because it just started to create a platform for me to speak from that, again, that credibility or thought of credibility that came from that affiliation. And still to this day, and 27 years later, we're still doing it, and opportunities are just been endless. I mean, I don't know what. I really believe I can honestly say, I don't think these opportunities would have come as an AB. You know, I'm very unique. People are going to look because you look different. Give them something to look at. You know, if you want to put your boots in your pants in your boots, do it. You know, so, you know, and again, I've been able to develop some wonderful relationships because of who I am, not because of the situation I'm in. And, you know, these affiliations I've had for a long time, from Purina to Way Out West Boots to Shorty's Cabot Hattery, these things have come because of the development of a relationship and fostering that relationship through what I've learned from a horse and that common bond.
When you talked a little bit ago about that boy that you were introduced to, we had talked about how there weren't very many people in similar circumstances for you to look up to or to get information from, or how do I do this and how do I do that. Was that something that was ever in your mind, that you were going to be in that position or be that person to somebody else, or was that kind of an eye-opening time for that?
You know,
like, did you ever think about what the impact or influence would be on other people or just yourself?
no, I never looked at it that how that impact might be. What I wanted to do is I wanted to make that first impression, if you will, so sincere that it was impacting in that way. It wasn't because of this. It's interesting because, like, little kids, for example, they'll come up, they don't have any judgment one way or the other. Kind of curious. Well, touch the tires, touch the wheels. I mean, they're just curious. And they're innocent. And they'll just talk. How'd you get hurt? What happened? So I use that opportunity to say, hey, you know, this is what happened to me. When you're in a car, wear seatbelts. I didn't have a seatbelt on. And then you'll get a parent that'll come by and they'll snatch the kid and take him away. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Shouldn't be sorry. I'm glad that they felt comfortable enough to come up. But again, you get people, you get society that thinks one way. Thank you. Thinks one way. And they're already passing judgment and they don't even know yet. They don't even know the situation. So, with that being said, I try very much to take this perspective. And if people are going to look, give them something to look at. Man, I love your boots. Hey, let me tell you about Way Out West Boots. William Miller. Great guy. What's that logo for? Oh, Freedom Miller. And it starts conversation. But this perspective, this perspective is really more of an invitation. Because if they're going to look, again, give them the best experience possible.
Absolutely.
Not, oh, woe is me, because they're going to take that and they're going to say, well, I don't want to talk to another person in a chair because that guy was such an SOB. Just negative. If that were the case, the impact that it has on you is going to be greater if I am negative and mean and don't want to talk and all these things than if it were another AB. Another AB, you just shake it off.
Mm-hmm.
But a person in a chair, you think, oh, man, he must be a real sorry SOB, and it's too bad he got hurt. It's too bad of it. So I feel a responsibility to be able to use this platform to speak from, to approach things from, as positive a manner as possible. Because I want people to look at me and say, well, if he can do it, why can't I do it? If he's not complaining, why am I complaining then? So yes, the sincerity behind this perspective and my approach to people and life and society is far greater. I want to open a door for a lady at a restaurant or a building, whatever it may be. They're going to look at that and say, he's doing it. Why isn't my deadbeat husband opening the door for me? Mm-hmm. Or, man, I want to make sure my kid opens the door. Take your hat off when you meet a lady. Well, what does that do? It just matters. But coming from this perspective versus being an AB, it has a more of a lasting, maybe initial impact, punch, if you will, than if it were just another AB. So, yeah, I definitely feel that the responsibility to be the best that I possibly can be every time I'm out, really just when I get up. Yeah, I hurt, I got a lot of pain. Doggone it, we all do. Why complain about it? Make the best of it. Figure out how to work around it, because you're going to feel that you can do something that you didn't know you could do. And the thing that I think comes from that, I know what I've experienced with people, their reply to how I approach something makes an impression. And I believe that, with raising kids, especially boys, teach them what manners is really all about. Because it makes a difference. Not only to other people, but yourself. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of what you represent. We represent the Western culture. Well, don't show people that we're a bunch of drunken idiots. Show people that we have manners, that we have a tie to heritage and a bond. Because if we don't, it's going to go away. If we don't practice good horsemanship and the art of horsemanship, it's going to go away. And we are held to a higher standard. And if you look at that with yourself, you're going to be surprised how people view you. You're going to be surprised how your horses look at you. You'll be incredibly enlightened. So yes, I definitely do.
Absolutely. So what, going on from that point going forward, were you still working for people? Were you on your own yet? What did that kind of look like to becoming?
When I started working, developing that weanling program, that's when I broke off on my own. And that was 97 and all the way through 99. But when I signed on with Prina, I stopped that business. I needed more help anyway. So I stopped that business, went to doing appearances, expos, clinics, through opportunities that Prina opened for me. and that affiliation. So I went to doing more clinics. My wife and I, like I mentioned earlier, we traveled about 40 dates a year. We'd present if an expo called me or someone called me for a clinic. We'd say, or she would, do you want him to fly in, or do you want horses? Give them that opportunity. More times than not, they'd say horses. So we hauled, we were probably hauling 90, maybe better 90% of the time. And weren't hauling smart. I mean, we go from one gig to the other. But it was, and still is, just so incredibly gratifying. You know, our business has moved now to more working out of here. And we bought this place for that reason. Have people come to us. The opportunity to start the veterans program here and having Josh's input in here has been fantastic. So we're not giving up the road activities, but there's a lot of people that are doing clinics these days. So we're going to shift to more workshops here, more horses being able to come here. As I develop my 2 horses and ultimately others to come, I'm sure we'll do appearances, because what I do with my riding is demonstrate movements. What do we call them? Freestyle, the music and stuff like that, where you're doing main events. Once we get to that point, I'm sure we'll start traveling some, along with the show part of our program that Josh is working great at. So there'll be an element of back on the road. It won't probably be like it used to be. Things have changed, price of fuel is definitely a factor. But the opportunities with Brina and making an impact with people is probably more greater now than it's ever been.
Was there a time, or were there multiple times to where you thought, there's no way I can keep doing this? Or did you ever look at what the alternative was if you weren't committed? And what made the decision to stay on this path?
Well, the events would be, if I wasn't committed, is getting hurt really bad. Staying present, staying focused is not only the best for the horse, but it is for you and I and Josh, because you let your guard down, you take it for granted, that's when you get hurt. And I have been hurt bad. Come off horses, broken legs. Both my shoulders are blown out. I've had 13 surgeries on my right ischium because of a brown recluse spider bite. So my ability now, working with all of those things, have helped me to be even smarter, to be even more efficient, i.e. Josh helping me with the pen, making sure it's as less resistant as possible without rolling around on cement, but still okay for the horse. So that has allowed me to be more efficient and not hurt as bad. The other part is, sure, there are moments that, and I'll tell you straight up, there are moments that I hurt so bad I'm sick to my stomach throwing up. Or you just start crying because you just hurt so bad. And those are moments of self-reflection. You can say, well, is this it? Or do you have more in the tank? Well, the answer to that is, no, it's not it. I've got a lot more in the tank. And again, it gets back to, positive thinking, working efficient, surrounding yourself by people that are supportive. And for me, it's getting my butt back in the saddle as quick as possible. and we're real close, right, cowboy? Yeah, we're real close. So that'll help, and that'll open up opportunities. But the times that I've been down, my wife can tell you, I what I've asked of her is just kick me in the ass. I don't want to be coddled. And what's beautiful about that relationship she and I have is I'm not going to coddle you. I'm not even going to pick you up if you fall. I'll give you all the support that you can have and you need, but you got to figure it out. And I love that. I mean, that's a tough love, and she's as tough as they come. And that my dad instilled in me. Now, would I approach it different with my kid, or did I? Yeah, I did. You know, I was a little bit softer. But our daughter she is tough. I mean, tough as they come, and there's no quit in her. And I feel that's important. And I feel that what we represent, people need to see, because there's too many soft kids in this world. I mean, soft freaking kids. And we as a culture, in this discipline that we love, we got to let people know what grit is. We got to let people know what being respectful and having manners is. And we need to know how to reach down inside and find what you can do. There's no quit. And I am really, as probably you can tell, I'm hard on myself. Get your ass moving, man. Because the moment I start to give into it, that's the moment it gets bad. And Josh can tell you, he understands what pain is. But pain will either control you or you control it. And that's going to guide you through life in either a dependent way or an impacting way. It's a choice. And that is something that I believe in strongly, and that I tried my best to look at the horse from the perspective of what can we learn? How can we help each other? And it's given me the fortitude to keep moving.
So, a couple kind of thoughts that I've had through this conversation, and now that we've kind of got like a fuller picture, I feel like I can kind of start narrowing in on some specifics. I can only assume that seeking employment in this line of work presented challenges because people's fear of liability and expected production. I mean,
Yep.
So much needs to get done in a day.
Yep.
What did it take in some of those earlier spots before you had any type of reputation, when you were just the guy showing up and they didn't know anything about you? What did it take to convince people to give you that opportunity?
Well, a lot of working for nothing. I'm going to show you what I can do if you'll give me the chance. And it was a lot of that. It really still is. But because now we have been doing it for so long, that this perspective is turned upside down. It's now, holy smokes, you got to go see this guy. Not he's in a chair and he can't do anything. It's you gotta go see this guy. Look what these horses have. And it's not a me thing. I don't mean it that way. This perspective has shaped me, has molded me to be able to have the fortitude to go out and say, give me a chance, I'll show you. Early on, there was a gentleman by the name of Doug Lilly. He was lived in Albury, and he trained a lot of versatile but pleasure type horses. And I was working for another lady. She had a horse with him, and he had a orphan that was born, and his dam died. Her dam died, pardon me. And I had put this weanling program together. and with the thought that at the end of their show career, they're going to make you more money than you'll lose. Well, that's putting it out there. I want to prepare them for their show career and for their life after their show career. Teach them how to handle stress. Teach them how to be able to have the mental fortitude to want to work. And you first hear that and go, yeah, right. So I approached Doug Lilly. Doug Lilly, and he said, I've got this orphan. You can work with her, and if it works, I'll tell everybody about you. All right. So I showed up every day, and we made progress with this orphan. She didn't know manners, didn't know space, didn't have any insight of what a mare would do to help a foal develop. So I had to be that. And she and I did great, made great progress. It was a lot of hard work, but we did well. Took her to a show in Oklahoma where Doug was showing at, just to lead her around everywhere. He couldn't believe it. And by the time we were done, really before we were done, he was already making calls. And so that started the process of me going to different facilities. And that opportunity kind of catapulted me to a next level. And man, you can't believe what this guy did. He helped this foal. He's in a chair, but I didn't even see it. I overheard one of those conversations. And I was like, wow. So that took me to the next level. That took me to give me more confidence. That program just kind of it wasn't sustainable. So I moved on to doing little clinics everywhere. That took me to work for facilities where I'd go to Kansas and work for a big Arabian operation. And worked there 2 months on, or not 2 months on, 2 weeks on, 3 weeks on. Then I'd come home, switch horses out, and I'd go back out on the road. Well, I did this for different facilities. Well, that took me to my first expo, which was in Wichita, Kansas. And I presented, got a feeling that I could do it. Just really talked about me riding, what I feel, what I try to help the horse feel. People like to watch it. So that just drove me to the next level. And so then signing on with Purina was just huge, because I was able to work from an affiliation standpoint that gave me the credibility to keep going. Mm-hmm. But early on, I mean, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, a lot of laying it on the line, and that really shaped me. And I was fortunate that I was able to do it, because again, sometimes it was working 16-hour days because you had 20 head, and I didn't have really much help at all. Mm-hmm. And sleeping in your truck to do it again. And I was married at the time to my first wife, and it took a toll. But I was driven. I knew that I needed to stay here.
Absolutely.
And it gave me the grit to keep going.
Okay, so I've got one more question, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. I know we're getting low on battery. I don't want to lose anything in the middle.
I don't know.
But
totally understand.
It was one of the first questions that came to my mind, and I wasn't sure that I was going to ask it, but you kind of brought it up earlier when you started talking about your ripcord. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of other people probably would be too, about some of the first rides you put on these horses, and when they did go to bucking, and what kind of that looked like, or how much we're able to avoid that situation?
That's a good question, and Josh and I were talking about that the other day. Well, like this filly here, she's 4. I gave her a little more time to grow and develop, and my wife and I probably I couldn't even tell you how many horses. It's maybe it's in the thousands. I mean, we've started a ton of horses over the years, and she and I have such a rapport that she'll swing over on them first. And what we do is I work so much at developing that nervous system like we talked about that they stay regulated. Like this one here, she's pretty spicy. Josh can tell you. I mean, she can get after it. But through keeping her regulated, T has swung up on her numerous times now, and I'm on the ground with the lead, and I'll do just what I did with the halter and lead before tack was ever introduced, and then with tack, and now with the rider. I do the same thing. I want them to first know how to yield. I want them to know how to shift their weight and step lateral, move from side to side, following the field through the lead. Then once we get that established, then the energy you can see to their feet, what we did again without rider, with tack, and then the rider. So she now, as of yesterday, she's sitting there, and I just back up, take a little feel, draw her in, just like I would at Liberty, with the draw part. And so yesterday, she gets a little startled. And normally, if she stubs her toe in the pen, she was bucking, pitching a fit. Yes, pitching a fit. So she got startled and did this, planted him. That's perfect, because she surely could have bucked. But because of the work that I put into her, helping her understand that she doesn't need to do that. That's a choice. But if I can keep her regulated, she's just going to come right back to it. And she did. Now, I'm glad it happened, because what I'm going to do if it happens up there is I'm just going to try to roll with or move with it, sit right in the center, and just allow my body to just move right with the movement. Now, we'll take that and continue that till I'm really assured that she's just going to walk quiet. Now, T will attest to it. I would swing a leg over on him sooner than she would like me to. But I know in my heart that we've done everything to prepare them, that if they do get a little fresh, that I can just sit it. My main demo horse, Bubba, that I was telling you about, he would buck every time I took the bridle off to do a bridleless demonstration. He'd just pitch a little bit, and I just move with him and keep talking. He just went right back to doing what we were doing, but he had to get a little in there. Yeah. So, I try to develop them in such a way that they don't go there. But with that being said, it's probably 1 out of 100 that'll fit what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for the mind. I'm looking for their temperament. I saw her right away. As soon as I touched the lead, I knew this horse was special. And she's proven to be every bit of that. She's gonna be freaking awesome. And he is gonna show me movements because he's bigger. We're gonna do more dressage type movements with him, and who knows, we'll do them with her too, but maybe we'll be running down the fence, man. I mean, we're going to turn and burn with the best of them. So, but the development, the foundation, not just physical, neurological, mental, emotional. And if we can meet all those needs, they're going to be there.
So for those ripcords to work, do you ride a center fire rig or?
No, I ride a pack rigging, which I can show you.
Uh-huh.
And we modified it to where it's an X, and excuse me, pardon me, and it pulls the saddle down evenly. Got D-rings that the rip cords go through back to the stirrups. So when I pull that, the stirrup breaks loose, the rigging breaks loose on that side, and the girt drops open, and I just go to the ground.
Gotcha.
And I don't know anybody that's riding in one like that. I've told everybody about it. I don't have a patent on it. The gentleman that made my saddle now, he builds the trees and the saddle, and he's a dear friend, and I know when it's built, I can trust it, and I do, probably more than I should, but I have that belief in him and what he makes. But it's an A fork, and that works better for the way they come down, but it's the slickest deal ever, because as soon as you pull that rigging, the way the rings are set up for the release for a parachute, the horse takes a breath and they'll open up, and it's like, oh, geez, better be sure you wanted to do it. I had to do it twice because I needed it. One time a demonstration, and I'm trying to hold on to the D-ring or the ring so it wouldn't open. Horse goes, couldn't hold it, fell right to the ground. But that was a demonstration. But only done it 3 times. I probably got better than 5,000 rides on it. So pretty good odds.
Heck yeah. Well, as we wrap this up here, is there anything that you have left that you really think is important to put out or say or mention, or anything that you guys have coming up in the future? Or?
Well, we're gonna, thank you for giving us the opportunity. One, and we are working towards starting a veterans program here. Josh is a veteran. We feel a need for not only veterans but first responders, but not just because all interaction is therapeutic. Develop a program in such a way, if individuals so choose to go on with their horsemanship, get them to where they can take them. We can take them to the show pit. It's going to be Ep.7. That's the unit Leanna Ray's dad was in Korea, and so there's a real tie back to him. He's since passed. The other is, if anybody's needing help with a horse, we're here to help, or people come out. But with all that being said, I would hope that people would watch this and take away from it would be appreciate what you have. Life's precious. Things can change in a moment, from being an able-bodied person to being hurt. Don't let a day go by without being just immersed in the beauty. These wonderful animals can teach us so much. Listen. Just listen. And you will be enlightened. So we're grateful, and we are grateful for you and what you're doing in your endeavors. We want to be able to support you any way we can, and I think we've started a friendship here that hopefully will continue. And I hope I didn't talk too much and ramble on. I don't know how long we've been here. 2.5 hours.
Just right, went by.
Man,
went
I tell you
fast.
what, it sure did.
Well,
God bless you, man.
I want to thank you for inviting me to your place and coming on and doing all this. And I just want to say, I wasn't sure what to expect coming in. And it's something I think about a lot as far as different training philosophies and everything, and how we were talking about earlier about how you can maybe force something to happen, or you can take a little more time and make it really stick, and kind of that there's always a way to fake it till you make it, or be gimmicky and all that. And I didn't know much about you coming in, and I don't know how to put it to words, but I am very, very pleasantly surprised and impressed with your story. And and what you guys are doing and accomplishing. And I'm happy that we have this relationship now, and it's something that I hope grows between us.
I do too, Bart, and it's you're welcome anytime. You know the gate code, so just come on in. And you know, we just want to inspire people. And Josh is a great tribute to the team. He's bringing some incredible things, and we're working back into getting really things ramped up with outside horses. But look for us, because we're gonna get on the road some, and maybe we can all go show together a little bit.
Heck yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in and getting this with Mike Richardson. So we'll put all the links and everything that you guys need to know about him there in the description. So thank you.
Thanks, Bart.
Man, that was great.